I don't know if anybody else is freaked out by this, but Joe Biden had a press conference today. He announced a whole host of executive actions, orders, procedures, however he wants to disguise it. A whole bunch of gun control legislation that he can just enact at a moment's notice. And he also made this statement, which should be getting the headlines, and at least it is sort of kind of at the New York Post. No amendment to the Constitution is absolute. Isn't that a little bit frightening? That would be frightening for a 6th grader to say, let alone the President of the United States, but somebody should probably inform him that he still has that position right now. But we got a whole bunch of stuff because this press conference was a little bit goofy, and it's going to have long-ranging effects. But hey, there are some things that you can say about the Biden administration so far, and God knows I have said quite a few things, but one thing that you can't take away from Joe Biden is he is following through on his campaign promises, right? Letting people in through the southern border, coming after your guns, spending more money than generations will ever generate. The dude is definitely sticking to his policies, or it's somebody's policies. Whoever told him to have those policies. Regardless, President Biden on Thursday announced a slew of new gun control measures after a recent pair of high-profile mass shootings. You remember those? Those were a few weeks ago. And he hadn't brought up gun control in a hot minute, so this is a little bit out of nowhere, but he did give us heads up yesterday, so not unexpected, I suppose, and I'm sure he took plenty of questions after this one as well. That's a joke. Of course he doesn't. Biden presented the executive actions in the Rose Garden, joined by Merrick Garland and President Kamala Harris. Probably needed a couple of people to hold him up. No amendment to the Constitution is absolute. Okay, if you're going to go after the Second Amendment, I have one. How about the 19th? That's a joke, sort of. Pointing to the famous Supreme Court ruling that you can't yell fire in a crowded theater. That is such a phony fucking argument. Many constitutional scholars have already torn that apart, but that's not the point of this video. You can't yell fire in a crowded movie theater and call it freedom of speech, man. From the very beginning, you couldn't own any weapon you wanted to own. Even though if you look through the Federalist Papers, I forget exactly which one, somebody asked, I think it was Jefferson or Madison, if they could own a cannon to protect their ships. And he's like, of course you can. Can you send me a picture of it? Because that'd be cool. I want to see that. So let's just go ahead and dispel that one right out of the way. And, they only had muskets back then. Well, there were air rifles. There were the early days of Gatling guns. Very early. I don't think that they were widely circulated, but there were several other variants that accounted for semi-automatic, or at least simulated semi-automatic firing. Once again, he's got that wrong, but this has been Joe Biden's shtick for, 50 years at this point? From the very beginning that the Second Amendment existed, certain people weren't allowed to have weapons. I think we know who he's talking about, but I'd like this video to stay up. So the idea is just bizarre to suggest that some of the things we're recommending are contrary to the Constitution. I think that they are. Gun violence in this country is an epidemic. It certainly is in New York, Chicago, Los Angeles. Oh no, that's not what you're referring to. I get it. Let me say it again. Gun violence in this country is an epidemic. Did you have to say that for yourself or for the cameras? Whatever. Get to what the actual executive orders are, but like I said, it was fucking weird. He always does this face in every press conference, and it's fucking hilarious. Because he could either be getting to the point of what he's trying to say, or he could be describing a sandwich that he just finished eating. It was like this big, man. It had cheese and bacon. So Breitbart has 7 things that he fucked up on. Pistol or pencil? Joe Biden holds up an imaginary pistol with a hand brace that essentially turns it into a mini rifle. Oh, really? The stabilizing brace uses a pencil. Essentially makes that pistol hell of a lot more accurate than many rifles. Okay? Can you name me the last mass shooting? It wasn't gang related, at least. One of the ones, the high profile ones. I just like to trumpet around there, Biden. Can you tell me which ones actually used handguns? Can you tell me? Most of the mass shootings, if we're going to be fair about it, they took place with handguns. But they're in those places that you don't want to address, and all the ones that you want to hold up as examples of a reason why you need these big gun control pieces of legislation out there. They were by those big scary murder sticks that are no longer as effective as a pencil. asshole. During his speech, Biden apologized to his wife, Jill Biden, for referring to his deceased son, Beau Biden, as my son instead of our son. I'm proud that the red flag laws in my home state of Delaware was named after my son, Attorney General Beau Biden, our son. Excuse me, Jill. And I know what you're thinking, right? Okay, Beau is not Jill's biological son. That is true. And if we're going to once again give him the benefit of the doubt, but boy is that pile getting overwhelmingly large. When you're a stepmother, when you knew the kid for a very long time, from the time he was a child all the way through his adulthood until unfortunately he passed away, because Beau seemed like quite a good person. So yeah, okay, it was just like a kid to her. Anyways, but yeah, once again, you gotta make these little concessions to make it seem like Joe Biden actually has a few brain cells rattling around up there in that hair-plugged dome. This one's weird. For that 10 years we had it done, man, the number of mass shootings actually went down. Biden said the federal assault weapons ban passed in 94, which expired in 2004. I can think of a few horrific tragedies that happened between 94 and 2004, but fact checkers frequently rebut politicians and media figures on this claim, describing it as half true or unclear. Yeah, I'm pretty sure most of the terrorist attacks, the ones that at least involved the big scary black rifles, Columbine, the DC sniper, like those are just a couple that come off the top of my head. But fair enough, right? That's already been debunked, but once again, you're a Democrat. You can just say some of the dumbest shit imaginable and they just run with it. Yes, Mr. Biden, what you said is definitely correct. Joe Biden dreams of God granting him one gun control. This is weird. If I get one thing on my list, the Lord came down and said, Joe, why are all those kids in the pool playing with your leg hair? No. Joe, you get one of those. Give me that one. Weird. Because I tell you what, there would be a come to the Lord moment these folks would have really quick. I don't want Joe Biden impeached because I know that the alternative is multiple times worse, but my God. And again, we already covered that no amendment in the Constitution is absolute, which is a astounding thing for a sitting president or even anybody who has held elected office, let alone some emperor of the United States, to say, oh, of course, yeah, he misdescribes the gun show loophole, which is a falsehood in and of itself. To purchase any gun, and gun retailers can attest to this as well, you have to fill out a background check. And what Joe Biden says is every time that you go to one of these magical gun shows that I keep hearing so much about, you can just go in there and you can buy whatever you can fucking haul out with your arms. Most people don't know. You walk into a store and you buy a gun, you have a background check, but you go to a gun show and you can buy whatever you want, no background check. The vast majority of gun show vendors are licensed dealers who require background checks. Only private person-to-person sales do not require a background in states that do not have universal background check laws. So I guess depending on your state, if you're going to be cherry-picking them, and I do believe the number is 22 states have universal background checks already on the books, but whatever. We'd be here all day if I kept correcting him at every impasse. Oh, and just because he's stupid, he would say AFT instead of ATF. I'm surprised he didn't say AFV, and he's like, did you see the one with the cat? That was fucking hilarious. But Press Secretary Chucky had something else to say. This is just the beginning. Of course it is. So yes, he announced today, Biden at his Rose Garden press conference, announced executive orders to regulate ghost guns, which are guns that you have to finish completing yourself. You have to mill out the cylinder, also, or not the cylinder, the barrel, sorry. Or maybe the cylinder if you're buying some ghost revolvers. But they aren't nearly as scary as they seem. I'm sure Biden probably, when he was first presented with that name for the gun, he was like, oh yeah, man, I seen that before. I was in that show I was watching. And yeah, there were like 4 guys in jumpsuits. And they got sticky at one point. And Bill Murray was there. Dan Aykroyd. Good guys. What are they doing now? And red flag laws and more, of course. The president is going to wait for Congress to take and act additional executive actions. This is the beginning, White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki told reporters after Biden's speech at the White House on Thursday. He will continue to have his team review both from a policy and a legal standpoint additional executive actions that are possible to take. which will eventually hit the Supreme Court and then just be ruled. It's like, hey, we got this. Okay, the first one is free speech, and the second one is about the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed, but these oh, okay. We've already seen that several of his executive orders need not repeat it, but for posterity's sake, Keystone XL pipeline, the immigration as well. Many of his orders have been challenged, so I wouldn't imagine that these are going to be any different, but there are also additional actions that can be taken at the state level. But he's not going to wait, she added. He can move on both levers at the same time. You're talking about a guy who can't negotiate a set of stairs, so let's not give him something so complex as 2 levers. Last month, the House passed 2 background check bills, including one for people who are seeking to purchase or transfer a firearm, and the other would give authorities 10 business days for federal background checks to be completed before the sale of a gun to be licensed. This came before, the Coomer shooter in Atlanta and Al Sawad, Alyssa, or whatever his fucking name is. I know his last name was girl's name, so who massacred 10 white people. But don't talk about that. Just talk about gun control and how it's so great. So what are the orders now that we have all the cursory stuff out of the way? Nothing I'm going to recommend in any way impinges the Second Amendment. Those are phony arguments, man, suggesting that these are Second Amendment rights at stake from what you're talking about. According to the text provided by the White House, Biden is directing the Department of Justice to, within 30 days, issue a proposed rule aimed at curbing the spread of so-called ghost guns, or guns that are made from build-yourself kits that require specialized equipment in order to put together effectively for them to fire, but they don't have serial numbers on them. The government will also, in the next 2 months, issue a proposed rule declaring that a pistol equipped with a stabilizing brace will be labeled a short-barreled rifle. That's retarded. This is the same people who thought that pistol grip as opposed to a shoulder stock was far more lethal. Don't ask. The government is completely and utterly inept when it comes to firearms. What was it, Sheila Jackson Reid or one of the other brainwave 300 IQ congressmen and women on the Democratic side of the aisle? Your 50 caliber AR-15s? Yeah, cool. 3 other actions announced April 7th by the administration include investing in community violence interventions, more money for programs and activities that don't amount to anything, meant to curb the spike in murders and shootings seen last year, issuing an annual report on firearms trafficking, and nominating David Chipman as director of the Bureau of ATF. Chipman is a former advisor to the gun control advocacy group Every Town for Gun Safety. That's somebody who you want in charge of ATF, somebody who is a staunch Second Amendment detractor, and currently an advisor at Giffords. He likes to take cross-dressers to motels. An organization who says it works to stop gun violence. Whatever, seems like a really qualified individual. What else can you expect? But like I said, there are different things at the state level that governors can do. And it's weird, right? Because here was a guy who, if he was on fire, I wouldn't have walked across the street to piss him out. Not but a few weeks ago, but this is the second time we get to bring him up with glowing praise, and that would be Governor Doug Ducey of Arizona. He passed, not that long ago, a bill. He signed it into law because the based Republican legislature in Arizona passed it through the House and the Senate, a bill to defy any new federal gun control laws. Sucks to suck, Biden. But this is the model that other states can follow as well, and I expect that sort of litigation to be following very shortly. And you know the states that would be implementing this kind of stuff anyways, the same ones that have. Maybe we'll be doing this in the coming days because I find it fascinating as well. There are several states that are passing pieces of legislation. I've only taken a cursory look at this, so don't take this as gospel. But different measures to stop it so you can carry without needing a license, or even just repealing the license requirement for open carry. All of it's great stuff. Because I've said it before and we'll say it again, an armed society is a polite society. The places with the most gun control, Chicago, Los Angeles, New York, have the most violent crimes. The most reported homicides via gunshots. It just proves that gun control doesn't work as intended, because criminals will always find a way to get the means to act crazy. Anyways, Arizona Governor Doug Ducey signed legislation on April 6th that would prohibit police and sheriffs in the state from enforcing new federal gun laws that may violate the Constitution's Second Amendment. Proponents of the bill have argued that it would ensure the rights of gun owners are protected. What they have described as potential overreach by the federal government. Remember, this was from a couple days ago. Critics say the law will undermine cooperation between Arizona law enforcement and federal officials. The state of Arizona and its political subdivisions are prohibited from utilizing any financial resources or state personnel to administer, cooperate with, or enforce any law, act, rule, order, treaty, or regulation of the federal government that is inconsistent with any law of the state regarding the regulation of firearms, according to the text of the legislation. Great. Hell yes. Good job, Doug. I guess you're trying to get yourself back into good graces, and keep doing good stuff like that, and give us an update on that audit, hey? Because I'd like to see a couple more corrections come out of that, because what are we, a few weeks in, and still haven't heard fucking word one about it. But that'll be something I'll be updating when it happens, but nothing so far. But those are the executive orders. That was the Biden press conference for the day. No questions, please. It sucks, but there are things that states can do, and also anticipate it going up to the Supreme Court. Somebody will sue over it, or they'll just totally ignore it in their state. And hopefully you guys find yourself in one of those states that are pretty dope, like Arizona. And with that said, I thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.